Hi, welcome back to Tales from the Tinkerage. Today I've got a little task to do for a friend of mine. He's a professional photographer and spends a lot of time travelling, a lot of time in London but also internationally, and so he's just got himself a 13-inch Macbook Pro. It's a couple of years old, so he wants to upgrade the storage, so he wants a second SSD drive installed instead of the optical drive that it comes with the machine. Okay, before I get started, I'd just like to show you the little rig that I've generated today, as well as using this camera to give a kind of a side shot. I wanted to give an overhead shot. Now, one of the projects I do have in my list of projects to do is to make a good quality overhead rig that will give me plenty of light and plenty of adjustability for different types of projects. I haven't had time to do that yet, so what I've done is I've just cobbled together, using a variety of items, an overhead rig like this. So what I have here is just a craft holder used for holding embroidery, and I've just, in the end of that, added a very old broken folding rule. It's actually one of my dad's. It's one of the few tools that I still have left that was his, and on the end of that, attached to my action camera, is actually an ice axe attachment. So this is just a simple little attachment used to get a camera onto the end of an ice axe. So if you're on a mountain and you want to take a selfie, days before smartphones, you could stick your ice axe into the ground, attach this part to the blade, and then attach to the camera on the normal 1/4 inch. I've had to have a little washer there because the socket on the action cam holder there is just a little bit too short, and I'm just viewing that on my little Android tablet, and that will let me see what's happening. A little bit widescreen, but hopefully it will give a nice little angle to it. Okay, so here are the tools that I've got today. A variety of screwdrivers. I know I'm going to need a Phillips, but I've got other little things for prying as well. I always like to use a little bit of tape sometimes for marking pieces that I've taken out. And I've also got here a nice little tip. I use a variety of pots depending on the nature of the task, but today I know I'm going to have lots of little screws, so I'm using these little silicone cake cases, ideal for keeping a few screws in each one and keeping them separate so they don't get mixed up, so they'll go back in the right place. Okay, so here we go. I've got the MacBook here on this little turntable. That'll make it easier for me to just make some adjustments. So I know the first step will be turn the thing over. Now I know that there are a variety of screws in getting this case open, so I shall get it's quite useful sometimes to have a piece of paper here, but sometimes I find it just as easy to make notes on some masking tape. So let's just pop these out. These first 3 screws are quite long, and the rest nice and short. So the screws are out. Oop, missed one. Now we just need to prise the case off. That's coming away quite nicely. And inside, just put that somewhere safe. We can see the components. So we have the battery here. There's already one SSD already installed, and here's the optical drive that we're going to take off. But we've got a number of parts in order to move out of the way. So first thing I'm going to do is just to ease the power connector up. I find sometimes just using something like a credit card or a store card can work quite nicely as a pry. Nice and thin. Don't want to bend any pins, so I want to be nice and even with that. I'm just going to pull that back so that
we can't risk shorting. So we have a number of connectors to remove here. These are blocking the optical drive, so little screw down there. There's also another one under here. So we have the camera and Bluetooth ports there. So again, I'm just going to ease these up. And then we should be able to get to these ports. So I have 3 screws on here that I need to loosen. That one's going to go into there. Although they're different lengths, I'm going to leave that there. Now I think there's some additional screws here that I may need to remove. So 2 longer screws coming from there. Should then just be able to lift this up.
Right, so now I can get into the mounting screws. So put those into another pot. These should be the last screws that I need to take out. I do like magnetic tip screwdrivers. They make life a lot easier. Now I need these screws to hold the new caddy in place. Now this should, if I'm just very careful, lift that up. Let's just get something to hold that. There we go. Now I'm going to need this bracket here, and I'm going to need this adapter. Now I already have the SSD mounted in a caddy. So this is a 128GB SSD, so I need to make sure it's the right way around. It's already mounted and secured in place. Okay, I'm just going to take off this little bracket. Let's move. Okay, just going to move this back a little bit so I have some space to work here. A little bit tougher to get out. Notice there's a little bit of blue on there, just some Loctite. Hold that in place from the manufacturing process. I'm just going to ease this out with my fingernails. Okay, it's the optical drive. Beautiful piece of work in its own right there. Just going to pop that to the side. I shall return that to my friend. I shall pop SATA connector in place, and we need to put the bracket back in place. It's very hot here today. Fingers are ever so slightly sweaty. that screw to hold on the tip. I was being very careful not to over tighten tiny little screws, as not to strip threads of basically quite a lot of